Hello, sleepy soul. The night is quiet, the world is asleep, and something is waiting in the dark. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and write your country and current time in the comments. Now listen carefully. The first time I realized something was wrong, I was already inside the elevator. Not outside, not in the lobby. Inside that metal box, halfway between floors, watching the display blink like it was confused about my existence. B3, B4, then nothing. Just a long pause. Then B7. I remember laughing under my breath. Not because it was funny, but because my brain was trying to reject what my eyes were seeing. There is no B7 in that garage. There isn't even supposed to be a B6. I hit the emergency stop button, but the elevator kept moving anyway. Slow, steady, like it didn't need my permission anymore. That's the moment I should have left the building for good. But I didn't. My name is Adrian Cole. I was 29 at the time, working a maintenance logistics job for a mid-sized property management company in the city. Nothing fancy. Mostly inspecting buildings, logging repairs, dealing with complaints about lights that never get fixed and doors that always stick at the worst time. The parking garage on East Hallow Street was one of those places everyone hated, but no one really questioned. Concrete, old fluorescent lighting, always smelling faintly of damp metal and exhaust. 10 official levels, B1 to B5 for public parking, B6 reserved for staff, and rooftop access for maintenance equipment. That was it. At least, that's what the blueprints said. I used it every day. Same routine. Park on B4, take the elevator up, do my rounds, leave at night. Predictable. Safe. Forgettable. Until I forgot my keys one night. It was late, around 11:40 p.m. I had finished a double shift fixing a broken fire door on the north side. My head was already half somewhere else when I realized I'd locked my car keys in the maintenance office upstairs. No big deal. I'd done worse. I took the elevator down like always. But when I got there, the doors opened onto something that didn't feel like B4 anymore. The lighting was dimmer. The air colder. The concrete looked newer, smoother, like it had been poured recently. And the sign on the wall, bolted above the stairwell, read, B5. That alone should have been normal. Except B5 didn't look like B5. The paint wasn't chipped like it always was. The vending machine that used to sit in the corner was gone. In its place was just empty space and a faint outline on the floor, like something had been removed recently. I remember standing there too long, trying to convince myself I was just tired. Then I saw the stairs. They went down, one more level, and above them, a hand-painted sign that looked completely wrong for a corporate garage. B7. No font consistency. No safety compliance stickers. Just black paint on white metal, like someone had done it quickly and left. I actually said out loud, "That's not real." Because it wasn't. I had the site maps memorized. There was no B7. Still, I walked closer. The stairwell door was slightly open. Cold air was coming from it. That's what I remember most clearly. Not fear, not confusion, just the air. It felt older, like it had been trapped down there for a long time. I didn't go in. I backed away, took the elevator back up, and convinced myself it was a maintenance error. Maybe old signage left behind. Maybe someone was screwing with the building. That's what I told myself. The next morning, I checked the security logs. There was nothing unusual. But I noticed something else. The camera feed for B5 had a timestamp glitch at exactly 2:13 a.m. For 3 seconds, the video looped backward. And in that loop, there was a staircase that wasn't supposed to be there. I zoomed in until my eyes hurt. The stairwell wasn't just there. It looked used. Footprints on the steps. Fresh dust patterns. Like people had been going down there regularly. I reported it to building security. The supervisor, a guy named Harlan, didn't even look up from his clipboard when I mentioned B7. "Doesn't exist," he said. I saw it. He finally looked at me then, tired eyes, no curiosity. Just annoyance. "You're looking at old architecture overlays. That garage was remodeled twice. You probably saw an unsealed section of sublevel mapping. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, because that night B7 was gone, and B8 was there instead. I wish I was exaggerating. Same stairwell, same cold air, but now the hand-painted sign had changed. B8. I went down one step, then two, then stopped, because I could hear something. Not machinery, not pipes, breathing, slow, deep, like the building itself was exhaling through the walls. I backed away again, took the elevator, left without logging anything. But the next day, everything had changed again. B7 was back, except now there were 2 floors beneath it, B8 and B9, and the security feed didn't match reality anymore. That's when I started paying attention to time, because something strange was happening with it. The elevator logs showed people entering at B4 and exiting at B4, but the timestamps didn't align. Some exits were recorded before entries. Others overlapped. Once, I watched footage of myself leaving the garage at 10:03 p.m. I was still inside the building at 10:04 p.m. Same jacket, same movement, same me, just in 2 places. That's when I stopped sleeping properly. I told myself I'd only investigate once more. Just once. That night, I went down to B7 again. The stairwell door was fully open this time, waiting, and the air coming from it felt heavier. Not physically, but like it was holding weight I couldn't see. I stepped down. The first thing I noticed was the lights. They were fluorescent, but older, flickering in patterns that didn't match any electrical system I knew. Some of them buzzed too slowly. Others pulsed like breathing. The concrete walls looked identical, but not quite, like copies of copies, slightly degraded each time I looked away and back again. I reached B8, then B9. Then I stopped counting, because I realized something worse. Every level looked like B4. Same layout, same pillars, same faded yellow parking lines. But each one was slightly wrong. On one floor, my own car was parked. On another, I saw a version of myself walking toward an elevator that didn't exist in my memory. On another, the security booth was filled with someone who looked like Harlan, except he was younger and terrified. And then I saw him look at me, directly. He mouthed something through the glass. "Don't stay too long." The elevator behind me dinged. I hadn't pressed anything. It opened anyway. Inside was me, or something wearing my shape. Same jacket, same face, same posture, but its eyes didn't focus correctly, like it was trying to remember how to look human. It smiled when it saw me. That's when I ran. I don't remember which floors I passed. The stairs didn't behave normally anymore. Sometimes they went up when I expected them to go down. Sometimes they led me into identical rooms that weren't connected to anything. I just ran until I hit the elevator again. When I got back to the surface, the night air hit me like a slap. I didn't go home. I went straight to security. Harlan was still there, but he looked older than he had that morning, like he had aged in a single shift. I told him everything. The floors, the copies, the other me. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You've been going down too far." "What does that mean?" I asked. He leaned back in his chair. "That garage isn't expanding," he said quietly. "It's repeating." I laughed. I actually laughed because it sounded insane. But he wasn't joking. He pulled out an old file. Pages yellowed, edges burned. Blueprints. Dozens of them. All labeled the same building, but each one slightly different. Some showed B6 as the lowest level. Others showed B12. One showed B19. And every version had the same handwritten note in the margin. "Do not descend past the repeat threshold." "What happens if you do?" I asked. Harlan didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "You don't go deeper. You go earlier." I didn't understand. He pointed at one of the maps. Every lower level is a previous version of the garage. Not physically lower, temporally earlier. My stomach dropped. He continued. "It duplicates moments. Floors that existed yesterday, last week, last year. They stack under each other. If you stay too long, you start overlapping with yourself." I thought about what I saw. The other me. The car that shouldn't exist. The elevator that moved without input. So what am I seeing? I asked. He looked at me like he didn't want to say it. Past occupancy states, he finally said. Ghost versions of the same building timeline. That night, I quit on the spot. Or tried to. But when I went back to the garage to retrieve my car, B5 wasn't B5 anymore. It was B7 again. And the stairwell door was gone. Replaced by a solid concrete wall. No seams. No handle. Just sealed. The elevator still worked. But the buttons were different. They weren't labeled B1 to B5 anymore. They were dates. And one of them was blinking. Today. I didn't press anything. But the doors closed anyway. And as the elevator started moving, I realized something cold and final. The display wasn't counting floors anymore. It was counting versions. B4, B3, B2. Then it stopped, paused, and flickered, before changing to something I've never been able to forget. B7. Even now, months later, I avoid underground parking completely. But sometimes, when I'm walking alone at night, I see reflections in glass buildings that don't match my movements. And once, just once, I heard an elevator ding behind me in an empty street. When I turned around, the doors were open. And inside, it looked exactly like the garage. Waiting. Story 2. I should have trusted my gut the moment I pulled up to the hotel and saw my car sitting there slightly off. But I didn't. That's kind of the problem in this story. My name's Jordan Hayes. I was 31 when this happened, working in sales, constantly traveling between cities, staying in mid-range luxury hotels that all start to feel the same after a while. You know the type, polished marble lobby, too much perfume in the air, staff trained to smile like nothing bad has ever happened inside those walls. This was the Meridian Grand in downtown Denver. One of those places that tries very hard to feel expensive. I had checked in late after a long drive. It was raining when I arrived, the kind of light rain that doesn't really fall. It just hangs in the air and makes everything look slightly smeared. I remember handing my keys to the valet without thinking. They had a whole setup outside, red carpet, uniformed attendants, a digital sign saying complimentary valet for guest comfort. It felt normal, safe even. The valet attendant didn't say much. Just took my keys, nodded, and asked for my room number. I remember thinking he looked tired. Not physically, more like he was emotionally elsewhere, like he wasn't fully present in the conversation. But I was exhausted too, so I didn't care. Your car will be brought up on request, he said. That was it. That night, nothing happened. But the next morning, I noticed something small. My driver's seat had been adjusted. Not dramatically, just slightly lower. Tilted back a bit more than I remembered. At first, I laughed it off. Maybe I hit the controls accidentally. Maybe I forgot how I parked it. Cars have a way of making you doubt yourself like that. But then I noticed the radio was on a different station, and there was a faint smell in the car. Dirt. Dry earth. Like something had been driven through open land. I live in cities. I don't drive through dirt roads. Still, I told myself it was nothing. That afternoon, I used valet again. Big mistake. When I got my car back that evening, there was a scratch on the passenger door. Not deep, but long. Fresh enough that I could feel the edge with my fingernail. I stared at it for a long time before calling the front desk. "Oh, valet services are outsourced," the receptionist said politely. "We can log a complaint, but sometimes minor wear happens during high traffic hours." Minor wear. That phrase stuck with me, because it didn't feel minor. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about the scratch, the seat adjustment, the smell. At 2:13 a.m., I went down to the parking garage, just to check. The valet stand was empty, but the garage wasn't. There were cars moving, slowly, not like normal traffic, more like repositioning. Quiet engine sounds echoing between concrete pillars. I froze behind a column and watched. One valet attendant, same tired expression, was inside my car, driving it, but not parking it. He was circling the garage in wide loops, stopping occasionally as if checking something, then continuing. I remember whispering to myself, What the hell? Then I saw something worse. The garage layout didn't match the hotel layout. At least not exactly. Some sections looked stretched. Some corridors led to places that shouldn't exist in a parking structure. I blinked hard. Looked again. It was normal. Just a garage. I told myself I was overtired, and I went back upstairs. The next day, I bought a small hidden dash camera. I told myself it was just to confirm my suspicion about valet handling. Nothing dramatic, but deep down, I already knew I was looking for something wrong. That evening, I handed over my keys again. The attendant nodded like always. Same tired eyes, same slow movements. Standard valet service, he said. I nodded and waited. When I got my car back the next morning, I didn't touch anything. I went straight to the footage, and that's when my stomach dropped, because the video didn't show a parking garage. It showed something else. At first, it looked normal, my car being driven away, down a ramp, into the hotel garage. But then the camera flickered. Static. A full 5 seconds of it, and when the image returned, the environment had changed. The walls were not concrete anymore. They were uneven, too organic in texture, like rock but wrong. The lighting wasn't fluorescent, it was dim, amber, like something burning far away. My car was still moving, but not through a garage, through tunnels. Long, narrowing tunnels that curved in ways that didn't make architectural sense. I leaned closer to the screen. My hands were shaking without me realizing it. Then I saw something outside the driver's window. A reflection. Not mine. Something sitting in the passenger seat. Just a shape. Human-like, but wrong in proportion. Too still. Watching forward. I froze. I rewound. Paused frame by frame. The passenger seat was empty in every frame, except the ones where it wasn't. And in those frames, the figure never turned toward the camera. It just existed, like it only appeared when the recording wasn't fully stable. I shut the laptop. I actually laughed once. Not because it was funny, because my brain was trying to reject it. I told myself it was a glitch, compression error, camera malfunction, anything. But I didn't use valet again after that, except I didn't have a choice, because at 10:41 p.m. that night, the hotel called my room. Sir, your vehicle has been returned and is ready for pickup. I didn't request it, I said. A pause. Then, it has already been processed. That wording. Processed. Something about it made my skin tighten. I went down anyway, because what else do you do when your car is ready and you didn't ask for it? The valet stand was empty again, but my car was there, parked neatly, too neatly, like it had been placed rather than driven. I approached slowly. The headlights blinked once. Locked. I opened the door, and immediately noticed the interior was different. The steering wheel had faint scratches I didn't recognize. The seat stitching was slightly torn, and there was mud on the floor mats. Dark, wet, thick. Not city dirt. Something else. My breathing got shallow. I checked the dash camera. Battery was full, but the recording had been overwritten. Not deleted. Overwritten. With a single continuous clip starting from the moment I got the car back. I hit play, and froze. The video showed my car parked inside a tunnel. Engine off. Doors locked. And outside the windshield, something standing in front of it. Not human. Not fully. Just a silhouette shaped like a valet uniform stretched over something too tall. It leaned closer to the windshield, slowly, and placed a hand on the glass. My reflection in the video didn't match my real position. I wasn't inside the car in the footage, but something was. The figure tilted its head, then the video cut. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m., I heard the hotel valet system outside. Engine starting, cars moving. But I wasn't sure if it was outside or inside my head anymore. The next morning, I went to the front desk with the footage. The receptionist watched it once, then twice, then handed it back carefully. I think you should speak to management, she said quietly. When I asked for management, they told me no one by that title was available. Only valet coordination. I insisted. They called someone. A man came down in a suit. Perfect posture, calm voice. He didn't look at the footage for long, just enough. Then he said something I still remember word for word. Your vehicle was returned in acceptable condition relative to its exchange. Exchange? I asked. He nodded. All valet transactions are exchanges. We return what aligns with the vehicle's current configuration. I stared at him. That's not my car. He paused, then smiled slightly. That depends on which iteration you're referring to. I left the hotel immediately. But when I got to the parking lot, my car was gone. Replaced. Same model. Same color. Same plates. But the scratches were gone. The interior smelled like fresh upholstery, like nothing had ever happened. Except I knew. I knew because the dash camera was still there, and the last file had changed again. Now it showed me driving, not through tunnels, not through garages, but somewhere else entirely, a road I've never seen, surrounded by places that didn't match geography. And in the final frame, I wasn't alone in the driver's seat. Something was sitting beside me, wearing a valet uniform, adjusting the mirror, perfectly calm, like it had been doing this job for a very long time. I stopped using hotels after that, but sometimes when I'm driving alone at night, I still see valet stands outside buildings that shouldn't have them. And I swear, just for a second, someone in a uniform nods at me, waiting for the keys. Story 3. It started with something so normal I almost didn't think it mattered. A mall parking lot. That's it. Just a place I drove past every day on my way home from work. Except now, I can't pass any empty parking lot at night without feeling that same tight pressure in my chest. My name is Jason. I was 28 when this happened, living in a small apartment outside Columbus, working a night shift inventory job at a wholesale store. Nothing interesting. Nothing dangerous. My life was basically repetition, work, drive, sleep, repeat. There was a large shopping mall about 10 minutes from my place, Riverbend Mall. It wasn't fancy, but it was always busy. Families, teenagers, food courts packed on weekends. I used to stop there sometimes just to kill time before my shift. Then one day it just shut down. No warning. No sale. No farewell banners. One week it was open. The next week all the entrances were blocked with metal fencing and property closed signs. People joked about it online for a while, but eventually everyone moved on. Except the parking lot didn't move on. That was the first strange thing. Every night after the closure, I noticed the same thing while driving past on the highway. Midnight. Like clockwork, the parking lot lights turned on. At first, I told myself it was probably maintenance, security testing, maybe timers that hadn't been shut off yet. But it kept happening, every single night. Same exact time, 12 a.m. I didn't think much of it until I started seeing cars. Dozens of them, parked perfectly in rows, neatly aligned like the mall was still open. But there were no drivers, no movement, just headlights sometimes flickering on and off like they were breathing. That should have been my first real warning. I didn't report it. I didn't even slow down most nights. I just noticed it, like you notice a broken streetlight you don't bother fixing. Until the first message appeared. It was a Thursday night. Cold. Slight rain in the air. I had just left work, coffee still burning my throat, radio low. I passed the mall at 12:07 a.m., and the parking lot was full again. But this time, something was different. A car in the front row had its hazard lights blinking. Slow. On. Off. On. Off. Like it was trying to get my attention. I slowed down instinctively, and I saw it. A figure standing between two parked cars. Just for a second. Not moving. Not facing me. Then gone. I laughed it off. Nervous. Fake confidence. Probably a security guard, I told myself. But even as I said it, I knew security guards don't stand completely still in empty parking lots at midnight with no visible entrance open. The next night I checked again. 12 a.m. sharp. The lights turned on. Cars appeared again. But now I was watching more carefully, and I noticed something that made my skin tighten. Every car was identical in placement. Same spacing. Same rows. like someone had memorized the exact layout of a night when the mall was alive and replayed it perfectly. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Just, "You're early." My grip tightened on the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I didn't stop driving. I didn't reply. I just kept going until the mall disappeared behind me. I told my coworker about it the next day during break. He laughed. "Bro, it's probably just a glitch with the lighting system. Or kids messing around." I nodded like I agreed. But that night I avoided the road completely. 2 days later, I made the mistake of passing again. And this time, the parking lot was worse. More cars, more organized, and something else. A sound, not loud, but rhythmic, like doors closing in sequence. Click, 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 all at once. I slowed down without thinking. And that's when I saw the security camera mounted on the old light pole near the entrance. A red light blinking, recording, pointed directly at me. My stomach dropped, because I realized something simple but wrong. There was no power to the mall, no electricity, no active business. So why was the camera running? My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Second message. "Don't stop watching." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it in my head. The perfect rows of cars, the blinking lights, the camera that shouldn't exist. At 2:14 a.m., curiosity got the better of me. I opened my laptop, searched Riverbend Mall. Most of it was normal: closure articles, liquidation rumors, old Google reviews. But then I found something buried in a local forum post from years ago. A security worker had written, "The lot doesn't stay empty after midnight. If you ever see it full, don't go near it. Don't try to record it. Just keep driving." There were replies under it. Jokes. Trolls. But the original poster never responded again. Last seen online, 2019. I should have stopped there, but I didn't. The next night, I decided I'd drive slower, just to confirm what I already knew was wrong. 12 a.m. Lights on. Cars arriving. But this time I didn't just see them. I saw movement. Inside the cars. Figures sitting in driver's seats. Perfectly still. All facing forward. Waiting. Then my headlights swept across something near the center of the lot. A person standing alone. Closer than before. Too close. And this time, they were looking directly at me. Even from that distance, I could feel it. Not a wave. Not motion. Just awareness. Like I had been expected. My phone buzzed again. But I didn't look, because the figure started walking. Slow. Straight toward the edge of the lot. Toward the road. Toward me. I slammed the accelerator and drove. I didn't stop until I was 3 exits away. I sat in my car shaking, engine still running, hands trembling on the wheel. I told myself it was stress, sleep deprivation, night shift paranoia. But then I checked my phone. New message. Already opened. I didn't open it. It was just there. Waiting. It said, "You saw yourself." That was the first time I felt real fear. Not curiosity fear. Not "this is weird" fear. The kind that makes your body go cold before your thoughts catch up. The next night, I didn't drive anywhere near the mall. But at exactly 12 a.m., my phone screen lit up again. No message this time. Just a live video link. Unknown sender. My hands didn't want to open it. But I did. And I wish I hadn't. It was a security feed. Black and white. The mall parking lot. Full again. But now the camera was closer. Zoomed in. And I could see details I never noticed before. License plates on cars I recognized. Old models. New ones. Random vehicles. Then I saw something that made my stomach twist. A car that looked exactly like mine. Same color. Same scratches on the bumper. Same dent on the rear left door. The camera slowly panned. And stopped. On the driver's seat. A figure sitting inside. Me. Not moving. Not breathing. Just staring forward. Then the feed cut. My phone went black. And my apartment lights flickered once. I didn't sleep that night. At sunrise, I went back to the mall. I don't know why. Maybe because my brain refused to accept what I saw. The lot was empty in daylight, completely normal. Faded paint lines, broken lamp posts, trash near the fences. No cars, no cameras running, no sign of anything unusual. But when I walked closer to the entrance gate, I noticed something new. Fresh tire marks, dozens of them, all leading inward, like something had just arrived. I crouched down and saw something scratched into the concrete near the gate. Not written, not painted, scraped in deep lines. 3 words, "Still not you." That night, I stopped driving altogether. I thought maybe it would end there. But around midnight, I heard something outside my apartment. Cars, dozens of them, engine noises, doors closing, footsteps on asphalt. I ran to the window and looked down. The street below wasn't empty anymore. It was full of parked cars, perfect rows, lights flickering softly, and in the middle of them, people stepping out, slow, silent, all walking in the same direction, towards something I couldn't see. I noticed one detail that broke me completely. They all looked familiar. Not strangers, not random people. My co-workers, my old classmates, people I hadn't seen in years. And at the front of them all, standing perfectly still, was me, looking up, straight at my window. My phone buzzed one final time. Last message. No sender. Just, "It's your turn to park." I don't live there anymore. I moved 2 states away, changed my number, sold my car. But sometimes late at night, I still see headlights outside wherever I am. And if I look too long at empty parking lots now, I start noticing the same thing again. Cars appearing where they shouldn't. Perfect rows, waiting. And every time midnight comes close, I swear I can hear doors unlocking in unison. Like something is arriving. Or like something is finally remembering where I'm supposed to be parked. Story 4. I didn't think a parking meter could ruin someone's life. Not in a real way. Not in the way I'm about to describe. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The kind of day that doesn't feel important enough to remember. I was 31, working as a junior logistics coordinator in a warehouse office just outside the city. Nothing special. Same commute, same coffee, same cracked dashboard clock in my old sedan that always ran 2 minutes fast. That morning, I parked on Elm Street like I always did when I had early meetings downtown. Metered parking, 2-hour limit, nothing unusual. I fed the machine a few coins, saw the green light, and walked away. I didn't even look at it twice. But when I came back that afternoon, there was a ticket under my wiper. Except, I hadn't overstayed. I checked my watch immediately. I was within the limit by 47 minutes. That was my first strange moment. The ticket didn't say I was late. It said something else. Failure to comply with temporal parking authorization. Below that, a fine amount. And below that, a date. Not the current date. A future one. At first, I actually laughed. I thought it was some new city wording or a mistake. I even took a picture and sent it to my friend Mark with a message like, "City Hall is inventing new ways to scam people." Mark replied with a laughing emoji and told me to contest it. So I did what anyone would do. I ignored it. 2 days later, I parked in the same spot again. Not because I wanted to. It was just habit. Same street, same timing. I didn't even think about the meter until I saw it again. This time, the little digital screen was already glowing when I stepped out of the car. It displayed, time registered, 02:17:36, which made no sense because I hadn't inserted anything yet. I remember standing there for a few seconds, just staring at it, waiting for it to reset. I even waved my hand in front of it like that would help. Then I got another ticket that afternoon. This one was worse. The fine was higher, and the date printed on it wasn't just in the future. It was 3 months ahead. Under it, a note, accumulated time debt detected. That was the first time I felt uneasy. Not scared exactly, just off, like my brain was missing a piece of context. I took the ticket home and showed it to my roommate, Jen. She read it, shrugged, and said, "Maybe you parked on a broken meter. That should have been the end of it." But the next morning, something changed. I woke up to a notification on my phone, not from any app one had. It looked like a system alert. It said, "Parking violation processed, -03:12 time deducted." I sat up so fast I nearly dropped my phone. I checked everything. No app installed. No email. No city portal. Nothing. Just that message. 3 hours and 12 minutes deducted. From what? I called the city parking office. They told me there was no such system. They even laughed when I read the message out loud. So I tried to forget it. But over the next week, the tickets kept coming. Not every day, but often enough that I started avoiding Elm Street entirely. Still, they found me. One appeared on my windshield while I was parked in a grocery store lot 3 miles away. Another showed up when I parked outside my office building, a place with no meters at all. The strangest part was the content. They weren't random fines anymore. They were referencing my life. The first one said, "Fine issued for unauthorized parking during your brother's future wedding, 1422 to 1603. My brother wasn't even engaged." The second one said, "Violation, parking during cardiac event, self, projected occurrence date, November 8th, 2031. I stopped laughing after that one. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my kitchen scrolling through every ticket, trying to find logic, patterns, anything. And that's when I noticed something I wish I hadn't. The time deductions weren't random. They were increasing. At first it was minutes, then hours, then whole days. Every ticket came with a deduction notice in small print. Account balance adjusted. I started checking my phone constantly. Not because I believed it, but because I couldn't stop myself. Like checking for damage after a car accident you didn't fully feel. Then came the first physical symptom. I lost time. Not metaphorically. I mean, I stood in my kitchen making coffee, blinked, and it was suddenly dark outside. 6 hours gone. No memory. No transition. Just missing time. I told Jen. She said I was stressed. I told my manager. He told me to take a day off. I went to a doctor. They ran tests. Everything came back normal. But I remember sitting in the waiting room that day, staring at my phone, and getting another ticket. This one was different. It had a photo, a grainy image of my car, parked, empty, and the timestamp read, 03:41 a.m., future location confirmed. Under it, time to be debited, 1 hour. I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew I couldn't stop it. That's when I went back to Elm Street. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I confronted it, I could reset whatever this was. Maybe I just needed to see the source. The meter was still there. Same cracked metal post. Same faded 2-hour limit sticker. But when I stood in front of it, it felt different. Like it recognized me. The screen flickered on without me touching it. Balance status, negative. Then, user ignored 11 violations. Then, lifespan adjustment active. I stepped back immediately. My throat went dry. That word stuck in my head. Lifespan. I laughed out loud, because what else are you supposed to do when something like that shows up in front of you? I turned to leave. That's when I heard the sound. A receipt printing. From the meter. I didn't want to look at it, but I did. The paper was longer than the others. And instead of a fine, it had a countdown. Not money. Time. Remaining life. 28 years, 4 months, 9 days, 02:11:06. My heart dropped so hard I felt it in my stomach. That number was wrong. It had to be wrong. But as I stood there staring at it, I felt something subtle shift inside me. Like when you stand up too fast and the world lags behind your body. A dizziness. A loss of alignment. And then it hit me. Every ticket I ignored. Every time I laughed it off. I wasn't just being fined. Something was subtracting from me. From my actual remaining time. That night, I did something stupid. I went back and deliberately parked in front of the meter. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe answers. Maybe a reset. Maybe just proof I wasn't losing my mind. The moment I shut the door, the meter beeped. One long tone. Then the screen lit up. Active session detected. My chest tightened, I sat in the car without moving, and then I saw it. The digits on my dashboard clock flickered. They changed. Not the time of day. Something else. A second counter appeared underneath it. Life timer, 28:04:09:02:11:06. It was sinking. My breathing got shallow. I reached for the keys, ready to leave, but the meter outside printed again. This time it didn't stop. Paper kept coming out like it was alive. And the sound it made, I can still hear it, like a slow, mechanical heartbeat. I grabbed the ticket and read it in the dim glow of my dashboard light. Extended parking event registered. Penalty, 18 minutes debited. 18 minutes. From my life. Right there. Gone. I felt it. I swear I felt it. Like a tiny tear in reality stitched shut too quickly. I reversed out of the space so fast I nearly hit a pole. And as I drove away, I watched the meter in my rearview mirror. It wasn't just standing there anymore. It was tracking me. The screen followed my movement, like it knew. After that, I stopped parking anywhere near that street. But it didn't matter. The tickets kept appearing. On my car. At my apartment door. Even once inside a sealed envelope in my mailbox with no stamp, no sender. Each one took more. Each one referenced more personal future events. Things I hadn't lived yet. And slowly, I started noticing physical decay. Not aging. Not illness. Just a loss. Energy first. Then memory gaps. Then moments where I would start speaking and forget what I was saying mid-sentence. Jen moved out after I asked her if she had ever seen a parking meter count backwards. She looked at me like I was unstable. Maybe I was. But I know what I saw. The last time I went back to Elm Street was because I didn't have a choice. I had received a final ticket. No fine. Just a message. Final notice. Balance approaching zero. And underneath, next deduction will be permanent. I sat in my car outside that meter for almost an hour before I got out. The street was empty. Too empty. Like even the city had learned not to look at that place too closely. The meter looked the same, except now it had a small slot underneath it, like it was waiting for something physical. A payment. I stood in front of it and whispered, "What do you want from me?" The screen flickered, then displayed, "Time owed must be returned or served." I laughed again, but it came out broken. Served how? The meter beeped once, and for the first time, it showed me something I will never forget. A list, not of fines, but of moments. My future moments. A promotion I hadn't received yet. A conversation with my mother. A birthday I hadn't lived. Each one marked with a price. And next to them, deductions. If I ignored them, they were taken automatically. I backed away slowly, and in that moment I understood. It wasn't punishing parking. It was charging for presence, for existing in spaces I was supposed to occupy in the future. And every time I ignored it, it took that future away from me. I don't remember driving home, but I remember the last ticket. It arrived on my windshield while I was sitting in my driveway. No car had passed. No one had walked by. Just there. It read, "You are now parking outside your own remaining life." I haven't parked on Elm Street since. I don't park anywhere for long anymore. I leave my car running sometimes. I avoid sitting still, because stillness feels like consent now. And sometimes late at night I hear it. That faint mechanical printing sound. Somewhere outside. Waiting. Like it's updating my balance. And the worst part is this. I don't know if I stopped it in time, or if I just delayed the next deduction. Story 5. They tell you in the academy that the radio is your lifeline. Out here, in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, it starts to feel more like a warning system than a tool. Because most nights, the calls aren't about crime. They're about people who are alone long enough for their minds to start filling in the silence. That's what I thought at first. My name is Caleb Reyes. I was a deputy in a small county just outside Albuquerque. Back then I was 26, still trying to act like I belonged in the uniform. Still pressing my shirt like it mattered. Still thinking most of what we dealt with had a rational explanation if you just stayed calm long enough. That changed with Mrs. Alvarez. The first call came in just after midnight on a Tuesday. Female caller reports a man outside her residence, dispatch said. States it resembles her deceased husband. She sounds distressed. I remember rolling my eyes a little. Not because I didn't care, but because I already knew the shape of it. Grief does strange things at night. Shadows move differently when you're alone. Your brain starts borrowing faces from memory. Her house was out on County Road 14. Dirt road. Flat desert on all sides, like the world had been erased and redrawn with nothing in it. When I arrived, she was already on the porch. Small woman. White hair tied back. Hands shaking so slightly you almost missed it. He's outside again, she said before I even spoke. Ma'am, who is? My husband. That was the first red flag. Her husband had been dead almost a year. I checked the yard. Flashlight sweeping fence lines, shed, corners of the property where coyotes usually cut through. Nothing. No prints. No movement. Just dry wind pushing dust in lazy spirals. When I told her I didn't see anyone, she nodded like she expected that answer. He only stays long enough for me to see him, she said quietly. Then he leaves when someone else comes. That didn't make sense at the time. I wrote it down anyway. No suspect located. Welfare check complete. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. She called again 2 nights later. Same tone. Same fear, but sharper now. He was at the fence. He was closer this time. I went back. Nothing again. But the air felt different near her house. Heavy in a way I couldn't explain without sounding ridiculous. Then the 3rd call came. And the 4th. And the 5th. After a while, I stopped needing the address. I just drove. What changed wasn't the location. It was her. She stopped asking if I believed her. She stopped trying to convince me. It became something else, like she was documenting a pattern I wasn't seeing yet. Then one night, she said something that stayed with me. Deputy, she whispered over the phone, he learns faster when you come. What do you mean? He watches you through me. I remember laughing nervously at that. I told myself she was slipping further into grief. But my hands were already tighter on the wheel than they should have been. The first time I saw him, I almost crashed. It was 1:17 a.m. I was driving back from a different call when I saw a man standing on the shoulder of the road near mile marker 6. Just standing there, not moving. I slowed down. Headlights washed over him. He looked like Elias Alvarez, or something built from the memory of him. Same height, same jacket, same stillness. I stopped the cruiser. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he smiled. Not wide, not dramatic, just a small, patient smile. And then he stepped backward into the darkness. Not turned, not walked. Stepped back like the night had depth. I got out with my flashlight, swept the brush. Nothing. No footprints. No trace. When I reported it, Harris told me I was tired. Grief cases mess with people, he said. It wasn't a grief case, I answered. He just stared at me. Elias Alvarez has been dead a year, kid. I know what I saw. That was the first time I felt something shift in the department. Like I had said something that didn't fit the world we agreed to live in. The calls from Mrs. Alvarez got worse after that. Not because she sounded more afraid. Because she stopped sounding alone. One night she said, he said your name. I froze. Who did? My husband, she whispered. But it wasn't his voice anymore. Then she added something I couldn't explain away. He said, Caleb is tired. I didn't sleep after that. The turning point came on a cold night when she didn't call. That should have been a relief. Instead, I drove out anyway. Her porch light was on. Front door slightly open. That alone told me something was wrong. Inside, the house was too quiet. Not normal quiet. Pressed down quiet. Like sound had been removed instead of absent. Mrs. Alvarez? I called. No answer. Then I heard tapping. 3 taps. From the back door. Slow. Measured. Like a pattern someone was repeating from memory. Tap. 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 She was standing in the hallway when I found her. Staring at the door like she couldn't decide whether to move or collapse. Don't open it, she whispered. I'm not going to. but my hand was already on my radio. That's when the voice came through the speaker. Except it wasn't dispatch. It was static first, then a man's voice. Calm. Familiar. Caleb is tired. My blood went cold. Mrs. Alvarez started crying without sound. The back door handle turned. Slowly, like it was testing whether fear had a limit. I backed her toward the front door. Tried calling for backup. The radio only gave me static and that same voice repeating fragments of my name. Then the tapping stopped. Everything stopped. And for a second, I thought maybe it was over. That's when the back door unlocked. I still don't know how. We ran. I pushed her into the cruiser and slammed the door shut. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the keys. The engine finally turned over. Headlights lit the yard. And he was there, standing at the edge of the driveway. Closer than before. Not quite right anymore. Too thin. Too still. Like the shape of him was being held together by something that didn't fully understand human posture. He didn't chase. He just watched, and raised one hand, like he was acknowledging a transfer. Backup arrived 15 minutes later. Harris didn't ask questions when he saw my face. They searched the house, found nothing alive, but they found something I still can't explain. A photograph of Mrs. Alvarez and her husband on the kitchen table. It hadn't been there earlier. On the back, written in pencil, "Thank you for sending him." That was the word that broke the case open internally, even if no one said it out loud. Sending. Like the calls weren't warnings. Like they were invitations. After that, the pattern became clear in the reports. Every time she called, someone responded. Every time someone responded, something was seen. Always just long enough to be witnessed. Never long enough to be caught. Mrs. Alvarez was relocated out of county. She never came back. I thought it ended there. But 2 weeks later, dispatch received another call from her old number. Same house, same road, different voice. An old woman saying something was standing outside wearing her dead husband's face. Except Mrs. Alvarez was in Las Cruces at the time. Verified. Logged. Safe. We didn't respond. Official decision. That was the last time I worked that sector. I left the department 6 months later. Now I live in Arizona. Normal job. Normal hours. No badge. No radio. But sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear I hear tapping. 3 times. Slow. Measured. And the worst part is not the sound. It's the certainty that somewhere out there, it learned my name by listening to me answer the calls. And I still don't know if I ever really left that night, or if I was just the next response they were waiting for. Story 6. I should have been annoyed the first time I saw it. Instead, I just laughed it off. A black sedan, parked right in front of me at a gas station on my way to work. Nothing special about it. Clean, generic, the kind of car you forget immediately after passing it. Except I couldn't pass it, because every time I tried to move forward, it was already there, blocking me. At first I thought it was just coincidence. Traffic patterns. Bad timing. You know how your brain tries to make things normal when they aren't. But then it started happening everywhere. My name is Ethan Ward. I was 31 at the time, living in a mid-sized suburb outside the city, working IT support for a logistics company. My life was predictable in the way most boring lives are: wake up, commute, office, gym, sometimes home, repeat. Nothing unusual. Nothing exciting. Nothing that should have involved a black sedan that always seemed to know where I was going before I did. The first week, I noticed it 3 times. Gas station, office parking lot, even outside a grocery store at 11:30 p.m. when I stopped for milk I didn't really need. Same car, same position, always directly in front of mine. I told myself it was just a common model. Black sedans are everywhere. Your brain just tags patterns when you're tired. That's what I told myself, until I started noticing something else. The car was always warm. I know that sounds stupid, but I checked. I don't know why. I just did. One night at the grocery store, I put my hand on the hood. It was warm like it had just been driven. But I had been watching it for 10 minutes. No one had gotten in or out. That was the first time I felt something shift in my chest. Not fear exactly, more like misalignment, like reality wasn't lining up properly. The next morning, I mentioned it to my coworker, Mark. He laughed. "You got a stalker car now? That's new." I laughed too. I had to, but I didn't mention that I had seen it parked outside my apartment building the night before. Engine off, perfectly centered in front of my entrance. I lived on the second floor. No one should have been able to predict where I'd park. That's when I started changing my routes. Different roads to work, different stores, even leaving at different times. It didn't matter. It was always there first. Sometimes already parked. Sometimes pulling in just as I arrived. Always facing me. Always waiting. Like it was positioned. Not following. Positioning. I started sleeping badly. You notice small things when you don't sleep properly. Like how quiet your neighborhood is at 3 a.m. Or how often you hear distant engines you can't locate. Or how your own parking spot feels less like a place and more like a target. One night, I came home late after a double shift. It was raining. The streetlights were blurred through the windshield, everything reflecting in soft, broken lines. And there it was, the black sedan, parked directly in front of my driveway. Except this time, it was different, because my driveway was inside a gated entrance. I had to open it manually. I did, slowly, rain hitting my back. And as the gate opened wide enough, I saw it clearly. The sedan wasn't outside. It was already inside, parked neatly in the center of my driveway, like it had always belonged there. My engine was still running. I remember just sitting there, hands frozen on the wheel, staring. No broken gate, no sound of entry, no tire tracks, just inside, like it had been waiting on the other side of reality for me to open the door. I didn't sleep at home that night. I sat in a 24-hour diner until sunrise, watching the parking lot like something might mirror itself into existence. Nothing happened. For a moment, I thought it was over, that maybe I had finally pushed my brain too far and it was just paranoia. But the next morning, it was back on my commute, parked in front of my office, engine warm, hood slightly fogged like it had been driven recently. That's when I started checking plates. Every time, same numbers, except one detail changed. The last digit. At first it was 3, then 4, then 5, like it was updating, like it was progressing. I stopped sleeping again, stopped eating properly, stopped talking about it, because people start looking at you differently when you say a car is copying you. Even I knew that, but I started noticing something worse. The car wasn't just appearing in front of me. It was removing obstacles. One morning, I was late for work and parked in a different lot across the street. As I walked out, I saw traffic backed up near the intersection. Accident. 2 cars collided exactly where I would have been if I had taken my usual route. And parked directly behind the crash site, the black sedan, facing me. I didn't even feel relieved. I felt observed, like it was adjusting outcomes, not preventing them. That night, I went to the police station. I didn't even know what I was asking for. Protection? Advice? I just needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. The officer listened politely, too politely, then asked, "Do you feel like it's targeting you personally?" I hesitated, because the answer was yes, but saying it out loud made it sound insane. He wrote something down and told me to keep a log. That was it. No urgency, no concern, just paperwork. When I left the station, I saw it across the street. Parked, engine running, waiting, and for the first time, I swear, I saw something new. The driver's seat wasn't empty. There was a silhouette. Not clear, not detailed, just shaped like me, sitting perfectly still. Looking back, I stopped driving after that, took buses, walked, anything. It didn't matter, because it started appearing on foot too. At intersections, at parking garages, outside stores I only decided to visit minutes before leaving. Always ahead, always already there. One evening, I came home and noticed something wrong immediately. My driveway gate was open. I never left it open. and parked inside my driveway was the black sedan. But this time, it wasn't facing outward. It was facing my house, like it had already parked itself for the final position. I stood on the sidewalk for a full minute, just watching. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was slowing down, like my body was accepting something my mind hadn't caught up with yet. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Just a single line. You usually arrive at 6:18 p.m. My stomach dropped so hard I actually bent forward slightly, because I had never told anyone my schedule. Not even Mark. Not even Kara from years ago. No one. And yet it knew. I didn't go inside. I called the police again. This time I was shaking. When they arrived, the sedan was gone. No tire marks. No broken gate. Nothing. They checked the cameras. The footage showed me standing in front of an empty driveway. Just me, talking to no one. That's when I started to question something worse than stalking. What if it wasn't following me? What if it was already integrated, already blending into what people were allowed to see? That night, I tried something desperate. I left my car keys inside and walked. No destination, just random movement through the city. I changed direction every few minutes. I crossed streets unpredictably. I doubled back. I even took elevators in buildings just to break pattern. For 2 hours, nothing happened. Then I saw it, parked inside a multi-level parking garage. On the same floor as me, facing me, engine warm. And this time, the car door was open. Just slightly, like an invitation. I didn't go closer. I ran. I don't remember how I got home. Just that I locked every door, every window, and sat on my kitchen floor until morning. When the sun came up, I checked outside. It wasn't there. Not in front of my house. Not on my street. Nothing. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. Until I opened my front door and saw tire marks leading directly into my living room. Clean. Perfect. Like something had driven in, parked, and left without reversing. I moved out within 3 days. Changed apartments. Changed numbers. Changed everything. For a while it worked. A month of silence. Then one morning, I stepped outside my new place. And there it was, parked across the street. Facing me, engine already warm. And this time, the plate was different again. The last digit had changed. It read my age, 31. I haven't driven since. But sometimes when I stand too long near traffic, I swear I hear an engine idling behind me. And if I turn fast enough, I catch it for a split second. Always in position, always waiting, like it already knows where I'm going next. Story 7. I noticed the parking app the same way most people notice convenience. Out of desperation. It was a Tuesday evening in downtown Chicago, raining hard enough that the streets looked like they were melting into each other. I was already late for a meeting, circling blocks I'd driven 100 times before, watching every parking spot disappear the second I blinked. That's when I saw it. A new app notification. Instant spot found, 0.2 miles ahead. I almost laughed, because there are no instant spots in downtown Chicago at 6 p.m. on a weekday. That's just not how reality works. But I tapped it anyway. The map opened immediately. A clean blue marker pulsed on the screen. No ads. No loading delay. No searching availability. Just a spot. Perfectly open. Right in front of me. I remember saying out loud, "Yeah, right." But when I turned the corner, the spot was there. Empty. Waiting. I parked without thinking. And that should have been the end of it. But the first thing I noticed when I got out of the car was how quiet it was. Not normal quiet. Dead quiet. No passing traffic noise, even though I was still downtown. No footsteps on the sidewalk behind me. No hum from nearby storefronts. Just absence. The kind you only notice once you've already stepped into it. I checked my phone again. The app had already updated. Next available spot, 0.4 miles ahead. That was the first red flag I ignored. Because I was late. Because I was tired. Because it was just parking, right? The next time I used it was 2 days later. Same problem. Same city. Same frustration. and again it gave me a spot immediately. This time in a narrow street behind a row of apartment buildings I had never driven through before. But here's the thing. I had driven there before. I just didn't remember it clearly. That's what bothered me afterward. The building walls looked too clean, too untouched, like no one had leaned against them. No trash had accumulated, no dents or graffiti marked the usual passage of time. And my car was the only one there. No other parked vehicles, no movement, just mine, sitting perfectly centered between faded white lines like it had been staged. I stayed in the car longer than I should have. Then the app updated again. Next spot available, 0.1 miles ahead. Right then, I should have deleted it. Instead, I did something worse. I followed it. I told myself I was just curious, that I wanted to see how far it would go, how accurate it could be. But the truth is, I think part of me already knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to admit it yet. The next location was a parking garage. Old structure, concrete walls, dim lighting. But when I pulled in, the gate was already open. No ticket system, no attendant, just a glowing sign above the entrance. Vacant space confirmed. That phrase still sticks with me. Vacant space confirmed. Like the app wasn't finding parking. It was confirming something else. Inside, the garage was mostly empty, except for one level. Level 3. That's where it guided me. And that's where things started to feel off in a way I can't really explain without sounding insane. Every level I passed on the way up looked normal. Cars parked, people walking, distant echoes. But level 3? Silent. Completely silent. No cars, no footsteps. Not even the usual electrical hum of a building like that. Just rows of empty concrete, and a single glowing parking spot marker painted on my phone screen. Park here. I parked, turned off the engine, and immediately noticed something. My dashboard clock had changed. It was still the same time, but the seconds weren't moving. Frozen. I looked around. Everything outside the car looked slightly misaligned, like the world had been rendered just a fraction off from reality. Then my phone buzzed again. Thank you for parking. Please proceed on foot. I didn't remember installing anything that required me to get out and walk. But the app wasn't asking. It was instructing. So I got out, and that's when I noticed something worse. There were footprints in the dust around my car. Fresh, leading away. But they didn't come from me, because I hadn't moved yet. I froze. My heart started pounding in my ears. The footprints continued past the far end of the garage, toward a stairwell I hadn't noticed before. A stairwell that wasn't on the building layout sign. I checked my phone again. New message. Previous users are still nearby. I laughed under my breath. Nervous. Confused. What does that even mean? But I still followed the direction. Because at that point, I think I was already more curious than afraid. The stairwell led down, not up, which didn't make sense for a parking garage. But I went anyway. Concrete steps. Cold air growing heavier with each level. And the deeper I went, the quieter the world became. Until even my footsteps stopped echoing properly, like sound wasn't bouncing back anymore, just disappearing. At the bottom, there was a door. No signage, no handle, just a keypad that lit up the moment I approached. The app vibrated. You have arrived. The door opened before I touched it, and I stepped through. Inside wasn't a garage anymore. It was a street, but not one I recognized. Empty buildings lined both sides. Streetlights were on, but flickering too slowly, like time itself was struggling to keep up. Cars were parked along the curb, but none of them had license plates, and none of them had movement inside. Just stillness. Too much stillness. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A woman standing in the middle of the street, looking at her phone, exactly like I had been minutes earlier. She looked up, saw me, and her face went pale instantly. No, she whispered. I stepped forward. Hey, are you lost too? She shook her head fast. No, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be seeing this. Seeing what? She pointed at my phone. Delete the app. I frowned. It's just a parking app. Her laugh was sharp. panicked. That's what they all think. Before I could respond, she stepped backward, and something behind her moved. Not fast, not aggressively, just wrong, like the air itself shifted shape. She turned to run, and in the next second, she was gone. Not dragged, not attacked, just gone, like she had never been standing there at all. My breathing stopped. I looked down at my phone. The app had changed again. Vacancy updated. Then another line appeared underneath it. New user detected. I backed away instantly. My hands were shaking now. I turned toward the door I came through. But it wasn't there anymore. Just a wall. Smooth concrete. No exit. No handle. No stairwell. Just nothing. The street behind me stretched longer than it should have been possible. And more cars started appearing. Slowly. One by one. All parked. All empty. But not abandoned. There's a difference. Abandoned things decay. These things didn't. They looked paused, like someone had stepped out of them seconds ago. My phone buzzed again. This time the message was different. You are now mapped. That's when I finally understood. This wasn't a parking app. It wasn't finding spots. It was creating them. Spaces where people had been removed. Moments where reality had already cleared something out. And I was now inside one of those mapped vacancies. I started walking fast down the street, trying every door I saw, every alley, every intersection. Nothing worked. Everything led back to the same place. The same empty stretch. The same parked cars. And then I saw it. My car. Parked exactly where I left it. Except, it wasn't empty anymore. There was someone sitting in the driver's seat. Still. Waiting. My phone vibrated one final time. Return trip available. I didn't move. The figure inside my car turned its head slowly toward me, and I realized something I still don't fully understand. It wasn't waiting for me to come back to the car. It was waiting for me to replace it. I don't know how I got out. I don't remember walking back through the garage. I don't remember the drive. I just remember deleting the app the second I reached a signal zone again. Or at least I think I did. Because sometimes, when I'm circling downtown now looking for parking, my phone still suggests spots. Perfect ones. Empty ones. Too quiet. Too clean. And every time I ignore them, I swear I see a notification appear for just a second before disappearing again. Vacancy nearby. And I don't check it anymore. Because I already know what it will find. Or what it will decide is missing next. Story 8. I still remember the sound first. Not the screaming. Not the footsteps. Not even the collapse. It was the distant roar of a crowd that shouldn't have been there. Like a stadium full of people cheering something I couldn't see. Except the stadium was gone. My name is Mark. I was 30 when this happened, working freelance as a nighttime architectural survey assistant. Basically, I helped skin old buildings before demolition or renovation. Nothing exciting. Mostly empty warehouses, closed malls, abandoned offices. The kind of places where your footsteps echo too long and your mind starts inventing stories just to fill the silence. That weekend, I was working with two guys, Evan and Luis, on a restricted site documentation job. Officially, we weren't supposed to ask too many questions. Unofficially, that usually meant the place had legal issues, structural risks, or something the city didn't want people poking around in. The location was Rivergate Stadium, or what was left of it. It had been partially demolished years ago after a structural collapse during an event. There were news clips about it, chaotic evacuation, lawsuits, then silence. Eventually, the whole site was sealed off and left to rot on the edge of the city. Our job was simple: document the underground parking structure before final redevelopment. At least that's what the contractor said. When we arrived, the stadium above ground looked like a skeleton. Broken concrete ribs, rusted beams, empty stands dissolving into weeds. But the strangest part wasn't what was missing. It was the parking entrance, still intact. A wide ramp leading down into darkness, marked with a faded P1 P5 sign. Luis joked first. Feels like we're going into a video game level. Evan didn't laugh. He just said, let's get it done fast. We took the van down. The air changed immediately as we descended. Colder, heavier, like the world above us got quieter the deeper we went. Level P1 was normal enough. Dusty, dim emergency lights still flickering weakly along the walls. Old ticket machines dead and cracked. But P2 felt wrong. The echo changed. Our footsteps didn't just bounce back. They came back delayed, like something was repeating them a second too late. Probably acoustics, Evan said quickly, but his voice didn't sound convinced. We set up our equipment anyway. Cameras, laser scanners, mapping drones. The job was supposed to take 2 hours, but at 12:47 a.m., everything changed. It started with sound, faint at first. A crowd, cheering. Luis paused mid-scan. "You guys hear that?" I froze, because I did hear it, but it made no sense. We were under a collapsed stadium. There was nothing above us. No events, no people, no power, just concrete and dead structure. The cheering grew louder. Not random noise, rhythmic, like a game reaching its climax. Evan looked up at the ceiling. It's probably old sound bleed from recordings or something. But he stopped mid-sentence, because the sound shifted, and suddenly it wasn't distant anymore. It was above us, directly above us, as if an entire stadium crowd was sitting on level P0, which didn't exist. We checked the maps again. P0 had never been built. Just foundation slabs and structural plans that were never completed. But the cheering didn't care about that. It intensified. A roar. A wave of collective excitement. Then silence. Total silence. Like someone had hit mute on reality. Luis laughed nervously. "Okay, that's creepy. Let's just finish and go." But Evan was staring at the far end of the parking level. "Those lights weren't on before," he said. We followed his gaze. At the end of P2, a row of fluorescent lights had flickered on. One by one. Slow, like someone walking down a switch panel. We didn't see anyone, but the lights kept turning on anyway. P3 was where things stopped feeling like an abandoned structure. The ramps were clean. Too clean. No dust. No debris. No decay. It looked maintained, like it was still in use. Luis whispered, "This doesn't make sense." And then we saw the first car, parked perfectly in a space marked with fresh white paint. Engine off. Doors closed. Windows fogged slightly from inside. But there was no driver. Evan slowly raised his scanner. Could be maintenance storage. Then another car appeared. Then another. We watched as vehicles simply filled the level. One by one, parking themselves with impossible precision. No sound of engines. No headlights. Just presence. As if they had always been there and we were only now allowed to notice. That's when the cheering returned. But louder. Much louder. Now it wasn't above us. It was all around us, surrounding the structure. Luis stepped back. "I don't like this. I don't like this at all." And then we saw movement between the cars. A man, walking slowly. Not toward us. Not away. Just pacing between rows like he was lost in thought. Evan called out, "Hey, this is a restricted site." The man didn't respond. We moved closer. Too close. And I noticed something wrong. His clothes weren't modern. Old jersey. Stadium staff badge. Faded logo from an era I didn't recognize. He walked right past us. Through us. Not avoiding us. Not acknowledging us. Just ignoring our existence entirely. Luis stumbled back. "Did you see that?" But Evan wasn't looking at him. He was staring at the scanner screen, because the device was picking up more figures now. Dozens. All moving. All repeating motions. Walking. Sitting. Standing. Cheering. Like a loop replaying itself. We should have left. We didn't. We went to P4. And P4 was worse. The cars weren't just parked anymore. People were inside them. Except they weren't reacting. They were frozen mid-moment. A woman laughing in the middle of a conversation. A man turning his head towards something unseen. A child holding a balloon that never moved. And above it all, the crowd noise returned again. But this time I understood something I wish I hadn't. It wasn't random cheering. It was reactions, applause, screams, gasps, all tied to moments we couldn't see. Like we were standing inside the aftermath of every event that ever ended badly here. Luis backed away slowly. We're leaving. Right now. But Evan shook his head. No signal. GPS is gone. He was right. Our phones had no service. The radios were static. Even the exit ramp looked different now. Longer. Deeper. Like it had extended while we weren't looking. That's when the lights on P5 turned on. We didn't go down immediately. We just stood there, listening. Because from P5 came something different. Not cheering. Not noise. Breathing. Thousands of synchronized breaths. Slow. Heavy. Waiting. Luis whispered, "That's not a parking level." Evan finished it quietly. "That's something else." We descended anyway. Not because we wanted to. Because the ramp behind us didn't feel like it led back up anymore. It felt like it looped. Like going back would still bring us here. P5 was enormous. Far bigger than the stadium footprint above should have allowed. Rows stretched endlessly into darkness. And every single space was filled. Cars. People. Scenes. Not random. Not chaotic. Organized. Like a replay library. And then I saw it. The stadium itself. Above us. Or what should have been above us. Through a massive opening in the concrete ceiling, I could see the ghost of the stadium bowl. Fully intact. Crowded. Alive. Fans screaming. Lights blazing. A game happening in full motion. But the structure above had been demolished years ago. I turned to Evan. His face had gone pale. "This isn't a basement," he whispered. "It's a record." That's when I realized the truth. These weren't people. Not anymore. These were moments. Stored. Replaying. Every tragedy. Every celebration. Every ending that mattered enough to leave an echo. And we were inside the storage layer. A place where nothing was allowed to finish. A man appeared near the center of P5. Standing on the asphalt. Looking up at the ghost stadium above. He turned slowly toward us. And smiled. Not friendly. Not hostile. Just aware. Luis backed away. "We should not be here. We should not be here." The man spoke. Not loud, but his voice carried through everything. "We always get new ones," he said. Evan stepped forward. "What is this place?" The man gestured upward. "To keep it going." Another roar erupted above us. A different game. A different moment. A different ending. The sound hit like pressure in my skull. And then I saw them. People inside cars began repeating movements. The same gestures. The same conversations. Over and over. Like time had broken and decided to loop its most emotional fragments forever. The man looked at us. "You'll pick your moment soon," he said. Luis shook his head violently. No, we're leaving." But the exit ramp behind us was gone. Just another row of parked cars now. We were part of it. Already indexed. Already recorded. Evan whispered, "If this is a storage system, what happens to us?" The man tilted his head. "You don't leave storage," he said. "You become playback." The lights above flickered. The crowd above reached a final roar. And everything reset. The cars restarted their sequences. The people resumed their moments. The stadium event began again. And I understood something that still keeps me awake. We weren't exploring a parking structure. We were walking through the archive of everything that had ever ended badly here. And the archive doesn't let go. Even now, I sometimes hear it at night. Distant cheering. Faint echoes of movement beneath silence. And every time I pass an old stadium or empty underground garage, I swear I feel something waiting just beneath the surface. Not watching. Not hunting. Just waiting for the next moment worth storing. And I can't shake one thought. Somewhere down there, our recording is still playing. Story 9. I still remember the exact sound the parking lot made that first morning. Not the cars. Not the wind. Just the soft scrape of a pen on paper. Like someone writing too slowly on purpose. My name is Jordan Miller. I was 29 at the time, working a boring office job in a small Ohio town, that doesn't really show up on maps people care about. Nothing special ever happens there, which is exactly why what happens still doesn't make sense to me. It started when I began parking in a municipal lot behind my office. Cheap, convenient, always half empty. The kind of place you don't think twice about, except for the attendant. He was always there. Small guy, gray uniform, always standing near the booth at the far corner of the lot. And I mean always standing, not sitting, not moving around much. Just there. And the strange part, he never looked at you. Not once. Not at your face. Not at your car. Not even when he spoke. He would just tilt his head slightly downward and write on a little pad of paper like everything in the world was happening somewhere else. At first I didn't think anything of it. Small town weirdness, you know. But then I got my first ticket. It was under my windshield wiper when I came out after work. Simple enough. No big deal. Probably forgot to pay. But when I looked at it, something felt off immediately. It wasn't printed. It was handwritten. And the handwriting wasn't messy. It was almost careful, like someone who had written the same thing 1,000 times. The ticket said, "Location misalignment, vehicle placed outside assigned time lane." Below that, the date. Not the day I parked. A date 2 days in the future. I laughed when I first read it. Actually laughed. I remember calling my friend Mark and reading it out loud like it was a joke. He said, "Bro, they're just trying to sound fancy so you pay it." That should have been the end of it. But the next day, I saw something that made me stop laughing. I parked in a different section of the lot. Far corner, away from the booth. When I came back, the attendant was already there. Standing right next to my car. Not walking toward it. Not arriving. Just there. And he still wasn't looking at me. He slid a ticket under my wiper without making eye contact. Then walked away. No words. No reaction. The ticket this time said something different. Vehicle assigned to incorrect moment. And under that, correction required. I didn't even know what that meant, but I felt my stomach tighten reading it. That night, I started noticing small inconsistencies. My coffee shop receipt showed I arrived 12 minutes earlier than I remembered. My phone gallery had photos taken from angles I didn't recall. Once, I found my car parked facing the opposite direction of how I always left it. I told myself I was just stressed, overworked, not sleeping enough. That's what I wanted to believe. But then the parking tickets started getting worse. One showed a timestamp of a time I was still asleep. Another listed a place I had never been. And the strangest one, it had a diagram, a map of the parking lot. But not how it looked. How it was supposed to look. Lines connecting spaces like a grid of movement paths. And my car was circled in red, with an arrow pointing to a completely different space. Below it, you continue parking in incorrect flow. That was the first time I went to talk to the attendant. I remember walking up to the booth feeling ridiculous, like I was about to complain about nothing. He didn't look up when I approached, just kept writing. I cleared my throat. "Hey, I keep getting these tickets, and I think there's a mistake." No reaction. I stepped closer. There's no way I'm parking incorrectly every day. The dates don't even make sense. He paused. For the first time, his pen stopped moving. But he still didn't look at me. Then he said something quietly. Not to me. More like past me. "You're not where you're supposed to be." I blinked. What does that mean? He finally moved the ticket toward me without turning his head. I don't control the placement. I only correct it. That sentence didn't make sense. Not even grammatically in my head. Correct what? I asked. But he was already writing again. So I did something stupid. I grabbed the ticket before he could finish it. I want answers. This is harassment. That's when everything changed. He stopped completely. No writing. No movement. Then slowly, very slowly, he lifted his head. Not toward me, just slightly off to the side, like he was listening to something behind me. And he said, "Do not interrupt alignment." I felt my skin go cold. Then I walked away. I told myself it was just a weird interaction. But that night, I got another ticket. This one wasn't under my windshield. It was inside my apartment door, folded neatly. No envelope. Just placed on the floor like it had always been there. And it said, "Correction escalated." I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, I checked my car immediately. Everything looked normal. Until I opened the door. My stomach dropped. The driver's seat was worn down differently. The steering wheel had scratches I didn't recognize. And the dashboard clock showed a time I had never seen before. 2:47 a.m. I never drive at 2:47 a.m. At least, I didn't think I did. That's when I started losing chunks of time. I would leave work and arrive home without remembering the drive. I would sit down and suddenly be hours ahead. Once I woke up in my car in the parking lot. Engine off. Lights on. Ticket on the dashboard. This one was different. It had a photo. My car. Parked perfectly in the middle of the lot. But I wasn't inside it. I was standing outside, watching it, and below the image, user observed outside designated position. That was when I finally broke and called the police. The officer listened, barely hiding his boredom. "We can't do much about parking disputes," he said. I showed him the tickets. He skimmed them, then shrugged. "Looks like handwriting from different people. Could just be a private lot contractor messing up." But I knew. There was only one attendant. Only one booth. Only one man who never looked at anyone directly. And he was still there the next day, watching the lot. Still writing. Still correcting. But now he started writing faster when I arrived. Like he was expecting me. That afternoon, I watched him from across the street. He wrote a ticket for a woman who hadn't even left her car yet. And when she came back, confused, arguing, waving her hands, he still didn't look at her. But he said something I heard clearly even from a distance. "You are parked in the wrong version of this moment." She laughed at him, got in her car, and drove away. 2 hours later, I saw her vehicle again, parked in the same lot, but not in the same space. And she was gone. That's when I understood something I wish I never understood. The attendant wasn't managing parking. He was managing placement. People weren't getting tickets for overstaying. They were getting reassigned to where they were supposed to exist, or where they were going to exist. And when I fought it, when I refused to accept the tickets, I was being corrected more aggressively. One night, I decided I wasn't going back. I parked far away, walked everywhere, avoided the lot completely. It worked for 3 days. Then I found my car inside the lot. I hadn't driven it. I hadn't even touched it. But there it was, parked perfectly, and the attendant was standing next to it, waiting for me. He still didn't look at me when I approached, but he held out a ticket. My hands were shaking when I took it. This one had no fine, no date, just one line. Final realignment required. I tried to leave. I really did. But the moment I turned around, I saw something that made my legs go weak. Every parked car in the lot was slightly different from the last time I saw them. Same vehicles, different positions, like someone had shuffled reality like cards. And I realized, this wasn't a parking lot. It was a system, a correction grid, and I was the one refusing to settle into my assigned position. The attendant finally spoke again behind me, still not looking at me. "You are creating traffic where there should be none." My voice came out barely audible. "What happens if I don't comply?" He paused, then wrote something on the pad, tore it off, handed it to me. It said, "You already have." That night, I went home and tried to sleep, but I kept hearing the pen, scratching, scratching, like it was writing me into a different place every time I closed my eyes. The next morning, my apartment wasn't where it used to be. Same building, same door, but the hallway was different. My neighbor didn't recognize me. My key barely worked. And inside, there were objects I didn't own. Photos of me standing in places I had never been. Smiling, sometimes in the parking lot, sometimes near the booth, sometimes standing beside the attendant, always facing forward, always where I was supposed to be. Last week, I went back one final time. The booth was empty, no attendant, just the chair, and on it a stack of tickets, all under my name, all pre-written, all dated, ahead of my life. The last one said, "Final position confirmed." And underneath it, a blank space, waiting for the moment I haven't reached yet. Sometimes I still hear the scratch of a pen when I park anywhere now, even when there's no booth, no attendant, no lot, and I've started noticing something worse. Every time I ignore a parking space, I find my car already there later, waiting for me, like it never needed my permission in the first place. Story 10. I still don't take parking structures at night anymore. Not after what happened in that one. It started like any normal shift. I was just a rideshare driver trying to finish my last few trips before heading home. Rain was coming down hard that night, heavy enough that the city looked blurred, like everything outside the windshield was melting. Then I got the pickup. Downtown hotel. Big corporate event letting out late. People spilling onto the sidewalk in suits, laughing too loud, pretending the night wasn't already swallowing them whole. My passenger was quiet. Too quiet. He got into the back seat without saying my name, just gave me a destination through the app. Parking structure on Monroe. Level exit. That was the first thing that felt slightly off. No specific floor. Just exit. I should have canceled. I know that now. But I didn't. The structure itself rose out of the rain like a concrete spine. 7, maybe 8 levels. Ugly, industrial, the kind of place designed to be forgotten as soon as you leave it. He leaned forward slightly. "Just go in. I'll guide you." I nodded, even though something in my chest tightened. The entrance ramp was narrow. Concrete walls sweating with water. The kind of echo that makes your tires sound louder than they should. As soon as we entered, the city behind us disappeared. No signal, no street noise, just the low hum of fluorescent lights and the sound of rain slowly fading above us. Level 1 was normal. Cars parked neatly. Bright signage. Clean exits. Level 2 was almost the same, but quieter. Fewer cars. A flickering light in the corner. Level 3 is where things shifted. The exit sign was there. Bright green. Pointing back inside. Not toward a ramp down. Not toward the street. Inside. I frowned. GPS says. "Keep going," the man said calmly from the back seat. His voice didn't change, but I noticed something then. He hadn't looked at his phone once. Level 4 felt older. Dustier. Like no one had been here in weeks, maybe months. Cars covered in a thin film of gray. Some with doors slightly open, like their owners left in a hurry. The exit signs were still there. Still green. Still pointing inward. I slowed down. My hands were starting to feel tight on the wheel. "You ever notice something about this place?" the passenger asked. I glanced at the rearview mirror. His face was partially shadowed. "What? People don't remember leaving it." I let out a short laugh, more nervous than amused. "That doesn't make sense." He didn't respond. Level 5. The ramp downward should have been obvious by now. It wasn't. Instead, the lanes looped strangely. The structure felt wrong, like it was folding in on itself. And then I saw the first familiar car. My stomach dropped instantly. It was mine. Same scratches on the bumper. Same dent near the rear light from a grocery store incident I never bothered fixing. I slowed down hard. "That's not possible," I whispered. The passenger leaned forward again. "You're close." My hands went cold. "Close to what?" "To your exit. Level 6. This one felt abandoned entirely. No cars. No movement. Just rows of empty concrete and a hum that sounded too much like breathing. The exit signs were everywhere now, but all of them pointed deeper into the structure. Not out. I stopped the car. I couldn't help it. "I'm not going further," I said. Silence from the back seat. Then, "You already have." I turned around. The seat was empty. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. The door locks were still engaged. No one had opened anything. No sound. No warning. Just gone. I got out of the car. The air inside the structure felt heavier on foot. Like the place didn't want me moving freely anymore. That's when I noticed the writing on the concrete pillar nearby. Not graffiti. Something scratched into the surface. A name. Mine. Below it, a date. From 3 years ago. I stepped back instantly. My phone buzzed. No signal. Then the radio in my car crackled to life. Except I wasn't the one transmitting. A voice came through. Mine. I'm still here. I spun around. The parking structure stretched endlessly in every direction now. Levels stacking in impossible ways. The geometry felt wrong, like I was standing inside something that had stopped following architectural rules. And then I heard engines. Cars moving above me. I looked up. Through the gaps in the concrete, I saw headlights passing on higher levels. One of them slowed, and I saw myself driving. Not present me, an earlier version. Hands on the wheel. Confused. Entering the structure for the first time. My breath caught. The radio spoke again. My heart sank into my stomach the first time. I couldn't find the exit either. It wasn't a recording. It was me, but older. Worn down. Like something had been repeating me. Level 7. This one looked like memory, not architecture. The lighting shifted. The cars weren't parked randomly anymore. They were arranged, like they had been placed to guide someone, or confuse them. I saw things I shouldn't have known. My car, parked, crushed, abandoned, and inside it me, sitting still, not moving, not alive. The realization didn't come all at once. It came in pieces. This wasn't a parking structure. It was a loop, a correction, a place that didn't let people leave because it was still trying to decide who they were before they arrived. The exits weren't wrong. They were deliberate. Every sign pointed inward because outward didn't exist anymore. I ran, down ramps that rearranged themselves behind me, through corridors that felt like versions of my own mistakes replaying in physical form. A missed call, a broken argument, a decision I once made that changed everything without me noticing. Each level showed me something I tried to forget. Each loop made it harder to remember why I was trying to leave in the first place. And then I heard it again. My voice. Calm now. Almost resigned. You'll understand soon. You always do. That's why it works. I stopped running, because I finally realized what the passenger meant. The structure wasn't trapping cars. It was erasing exits by erasing the person who remembered them. And I was already halfway gone. Last thing I remember clearly is seeing the ramp again. The entrance ramp, or what looked like it. Rain outside, city lights, a way out that finally made sense. I walked toward it, and just before I reached the edge, I saw a driver pulling in. New, confused, looking for a place to park. And for a moment, I understood exactly what I was supposed to become next. Because the structure wasn't endless. It was selective. It didn't trap everyone, only the ones it could rewrite. And I think I finally stopped running somewhere on level -3. Or maybe I never made it past it at all. Sometimes, when I hear rain at night, I still feel like I'm driving. Still circling. Still listening to signs that point deeper instead of out. And if you ever enter a parking structure where the exit signs don't point outside, don't trust them. They're not showing you the way out. They're showing you where you stopped being the person who could leave.